Space. Cold, vast, and endless. But wait, what's that drifting through the stars? A meteorite carrying something more than just a rock. Inside, limitless potential. The seeds of life ready to evolve into something extraordinary. But who's behind it all? Who has the power to guide these tiny organisms from their humble beginnings to a thriving civilization destined to reach the stars? Why, it's you, of course. With the power of creation at your fingertips, the only question left is, how will you create the universe? Today we take a look back in time so we can remember one special piece of software that went beyond the medium. Episode 5, Spore and the Evolutionary Sandbox. So welcome back to the podcast, everybody. As voted in the poll that we posted after the Nosferatu episode, we are going to be covering Spore. How you feel about that, Chandler?
Well, we had a little choice. It wasn't, it was a close tie or anything. No, it was a landslide. So,
It's 80% in favor of Spore.
mhm. So get ready for a lot of Spore talking and, some education on it for those who haven't played Spore. Which, by the way, what was wrong with your childhood? Why didn't you play Spore? Was it because you didn't have a PC?
We
Well,
didn't have access to a PC.
just play it on the school library. Super
Did
easy
did
access.
you ever do that?
Hell no, because I would have to restart my whole, progress, make all my creatures again. So, no, I get it, but food for thought.
So I remember back in the day, installing the game actually was a major pain in the ass.
Oh, dude, with the disc and everything, ooh.
Yeah, that shit sucked back when computers had fucking disk drives.
Yep.
Anyways, for anyone unfamiliar, Spore is a simulation computer game released all the way back in 2008. The game was crafted from the mind of Will Wright, the legendary game developer behind The Sims, and one of the co-founders of Maxis. It's no exaggeration to say that Spore might be the single most ambitious concept for a video game ever created, where you, the player, are tasked with guiding your very own species on a several million year journey through 5 complex stages. These stages being Cell, where your journey begins as a microscopic organism, drifting in the tide pool just trying to stay alive. You then evolve into a creature where your species grows a brain and emerges from the ocean. They take their first steps on land and eventually evolve into something capable of sapience. At which point you move into the tribal stage, where your creatures band together to form the first society. You then move on to civilization, where you try to unify the planet through either economic stability, religious zealotry, or military force. And finally, you get the space stage, where your species will lift themselves to the stars and set off from their home planet to explore the cosmos. At which point you'll be acting with several different species from different planets, trying to reach the galactic core as the end goal of the game. Spore had 2 expansions as well, including the Creepy and Cute Parts Pack, as well as Galactic Adventures, which we will be talking about later. For the time being, I think a good place to start with is... When did you first play Spore, Chandler? Did you play it in 2008, right when it came out?
Oh, yeah, I was there. I was in the front line, I forced my parents, as a small child to drive to Target to pick up this game.
I did the same thing.
I don't remember how I found out about it, but I just know that I was like, this is single-handedly all I ever wanted. In my youth, I had simple objections, my big thing was creation games, and Spore and Viva Pinata are always games I could just go back and play the fuck out of it, and it being slightly different each time. So going back to Spore, my when I first got it, I didn't play it on a PC, so I played on a fucking Mac. So when you're using the family Mac, you have to fight for it, and I fought vehemently for it. That as soon as I came back home, that's what I was doing. I was playing Spore. Fuck homework. I was playing Spore.
I was probably in the same boat over there. I definitely begged my parents to play it. I think it was because of YouTube, honestly. Like,
It had to be.
some really old YouTube commercials, about like the creature creator and stuff like that was definitely the place that I heard it from first, I want to say.
Yeah. I remember that I didn't play the Creature Creator game. I played I waited until the full game came out because, I heard that was like, "Oh, there's a, cell stage and you evolve and you go from a little microorganism to a full-fledged animal," and like you said, developing a society and so on and so forth. So, I really waited for that to come out, played it. Um, Me being a kid, I decided to, I wanted to be a carnivore. I wanted to be the scary motherfucker that was predating on other little animals that just could not deal with my shit. And then sometimes I just straight up die
Yeah.
because, yeah, this is how the game worked.
That is
But
unfortunately how the game worked, yes.
works, yeah,
Yeah, I think everybody, or at least a lot of people, right, who played it at first just went for like a simple carnivore route, right? Just because as a kid, especially, that's what's cool to you, you know?
yeah, that's
Um,
what spoke to me.
yeah, so I think what really stands out to me was how ambitious this game was, though. Like
Oh yeah,
the concept for something like this, even today, is like unheard of, you know? It really takes a special mind and a special talent to be able to come up with something like this. And I think Will Wright definitely had that. It's a shame that like he didn't really get to
flesh it out
yeah, didn't get to
for what he
flesh
wanted
out
to
the
be.
game, didn't get to really see his vision all the way through, you know. He was clearly dissatisfied with the product and how it ended up being sort of retooled to be more of a kids game, and that is unfortunate. But I think for the game that we have though, it still left a major mark on me. Um, just such an interesting idea.
Yeah, like you said, there isn't a game where you start out like there's like some Civ games where you like start out like as like a peasant and then grow a dynasty, but on the scale of being a little organism to ruling the galaxy is such a unheard thing. You have No Man's Sky, but again, that's not on the same kind of scale as this.
And that
Just
came out way later.
yeah, it came out way later, almost like a decade later after this game, or nearly a decade. But the just again, the idea, the creativity is what draw me in as a kid. Um, it fed me, what I wanted. I spent a lot of my time in the creature stage just because playing as an alien animal was such a new concept that no other games really had.
And I think the creature creator as well was like also what initially drew me to the game. I don't know about you, but that was
Oh
like
yeah.
one of the first things I saw, and that's what they marketed it off of with like the demo software was just the creature creator, and just the possibilities of what you can do with that system is still really impressive to this day.
Yeah, seriously, like, again, like in the demos, they're like, "Oh, we made this creature like in 3 minutes." And most like, programming and stuff, this takes like, Pixar at the time, that take, for like the 3D modeling and stuff, it would be a movie and it'd be a crazy budget, but you, the player, can do this efficiently. You can make a creature under 3 minutes, or you could take as, you know, much time as you want, really detailing the creature to your liking.
And the
And
system just models it all for you and like simulates movement to the best of its ability. And like I said, even though it's really old, it's incredibly impressive even by today's standards because you don't see anybody taking the kind of risk that they did at the time to make a game this unique
Mhm.
in today's
and even
landscape where games are so focused on being monetized. I don't think something like this could ever survive.
no, no, not at all. Just because this game, it's the game itself. There's the two add-on parts, the creepy and cute pack and the Galactic Adventures, and that was it. And this game was they dusted their hands off, and that was it. Albeit whether for better or for worse. But it's yeah. But again, going back to the creature creation, no same person is going to create the exact same kind of creature. Even if you get really close to it, there's always going to be a difference between you and someone else's creation. If
Yes.
by convenience, the idea is the same. There's always going to be something different, which is nice because as a creature in the creature creator, you sculpt the creature by, manipulating its spine, you know, extending the width of the bone, making the creature thicker, or shrinking it to make it thinner. Not two things are going to be the exact same detail. And I think that's fucking cool because
And the number of parts and stuff you have, like, and the amount of control they give you over like each individual limb. Um, yeah, like you said, there no two people are gonna create the same things. You might end up with something similar as somebody else, but the amount of expression the game allows for is really something special. And I think that's why it stuck with me for as long as it did, because even though it wasn't the game that Will Wright initially wanted to make, like I said, they had to chop off a lot of parts of this game to get it to be that E10 rating. Because
Mhm.
originally there was the 2005 demo that he showed off, the gameplay demo, which was much more realistic looking, much less cartoony, and had different features like creatures being able to like drag bodies, and there was blood and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, we did not get that, but I still think what we did get is something really special. Like I said, the creature creator is still extremely impressive, and it's just a wonder to me that a game like this even came out.
And I'm okay with that. Maybe in some other timeline, this game would have like spin-offs and, crazy amount of sequels if it had the original demo. But what we got special enough. I always come back to this game like an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
Every
I
once in a while
probably I probably
come
come
around
back to
turn
this
around and play
game
this.
like every year. I want to say.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a safe answer. I love the fuck out of Spore. One of my favorite games of all time. It's right there between it and Viva Pinata. Don't know which one it is, but they're up there.
This
They
man
both
loves
scratch
his
the same itch.
Viva Pinata.
That I could talk about that, but for now we're talking about Spore
Maybe a future episode, but
future episode. But let's go. Let's talk about the cell stage where all things begin.
yeah. So the cell stage is a very basic like Pac-Man style game where, depending on your diet, which isn't exactly how cells work, but like I said, it was more simplified. You either pick like a carnivore mouth or an herbivore mouth, basically. You either collect meat or you collect plant buds. There's also the option for an omnivore mouth. You unlock parts by either killing or just picking the parts up from dead cells that had them. And then you develop your cell to basically continue growing up until you grow a brain, at which point you emerge from the tide pool. I think there is some serious criticisms that I have with the cell stage, namely that the cells that you encounter are the same every time.
Yeah. There isn't any much expression with it. So that is the big downside. You always run into the same Maxis made cells, the same name with the same parts. So you always have to go about finding this creature with like the little, fins to get the fin part. You always have to kill it no matter what. Or like you said, scavenge the dead cells. So there's a lot of repetition with the cell stage if you're playing from the beginning stages that just gets very tiresome and more tedious, really. It's not that, it's the same thing every single time. But,
Functionally, it is the same thing every time, unfortunately.
yeah.
But I do still like the cell stage, but it is basically in its function just a much more limited version of the creature stage.
Yeah, it's the cell sage, like we said, you're not really playing as a cell. You're playing a mix between like a protoform of your creature and a cell. So really it's kind of like, an aquatic stage, but not as swaggy as it could have been.
Yeah, it could have been much more interesting, I think, but your total time as a cell in this game is probably going to be like 10 minutes for your first playthrough, even.
Yeah.
Um, at this point, you get to the creature stage. You get a nice little in between editor that I always thought was really cool, of your between going into a cell and going into a creature.
Yeah, I do like the part where it transitions from that where you add legs optionally. I mean, you honestly, God, you could play the game as a little nub dude, grinding around on the ground. Um,
The game will
but
make it work.
yeah, the game will make it work. You'll be slow as shit, and you're probably going to get picked up by predators, but hey, man, that's what you decided to do. The game gives you the freedom to do what you want for the most part.
And I think that's really cool because at this point you pick a pair of legs, and then from that point you either try to ally yourselves with creatures or kill them, basically, which is another small criticism I have of the game. I guess it's more of a major one, to be honest, that the creature stage is very simplified from what was initially like pitched. Um, you basically just go around attacking creatures if you're a carnivore in like a WoW style system where you have your attacks bound to the number keys and you just wait for them to reset, and it's not very interesting. I wish there was more focus on the way you built your creature and the abilities that they have. But as it stands, I wish the creature stage was a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, the creature stage is my favorite stage just because it you play as the creature physically. This is the really only intimate time where you could in base game. But as you said, as a creature, as an animal, really, your focus isn't on, you know, making friends, it's survival. So really that aspect was missing. Like you said in the demo, you would hunt things, you'd drag bodies, and I feel like that's more in line of like what an actual animal would do. It'd be really cool, if it did happen, where you work in packs of your same species and you like follow a migration thing of like these herbivores and like you stalk them and stuff, and then you would kill, I don't know, like one of them, and then you could drag the body to feed. So I feel like it does have a hunger system, but it's not as like critical in other like survival creature games, or even water. You don't drink water in the creature stage, which there's a bunch of in the ocean. However, if you go too deep into it, you get eaten by an eldritch monster, which is like one like oh like just like okay, there's no like other dietary systems. It's literally omnivore, carnivore, herbivore. There's other ways of eating you know meat as a predator animal, like piscivores or like insectivores. I can imagine that would have been a cool diet system where you eat like ant hills or something, or you eat fish from like shores and stuff, or even then like a flying system. You just jump around. If you have wings, you don't really fly.
Yeah, you just
So
get to jump and hover in the air for a little bit. In general, this game just it is such a special piece of media to me, but it is also such a massive missed opportunity. Whereas the original vision of what this game was going to be was going to be something that could have been used in theory to teach evolution in schools, was what Will Wright wanted to do.
yeah,
And because of all the simplification and having to make it for children specifically, so much of the game's deeper mechanics were just completely lost. And what you're left with is still something very interesting, but not as good as what it could have been.
no, the easy phrasing of it is just it's very simplified. It's not too complex of a system. I mean, there's some cool aspects to it in the creature stage. Don't get me wrong. There's like rogue, these rogue monsters that are like they're like they have more health than you, and they're like super strong in either aspects of like diplomacy or attacking. And then you have the giant epics, which is always cool. You killing this big ass monster, but that's about it. And you don't really get anything from, doing these things as an evolutionary thing. There isn't like, systems of like, oh, hey, this tree has fruit, but it's really tall. How am I going to get it? You just go to a bush and you eat the fruit and that's it. It isn't like, oh, you learn how to climb or you learn how to like hit a tree to get the fruit to drop down. Nothing too complex.
You don't really get to do much besides giving your creature arms. That's the only thing that like really makes a difference. The different parts you add give you different abilities so that you can impress or kill creatures easier. But even like I said, even those abilities are basically just boiled down to just hitting one button over and over and over again, which is just unfortunate, you know? Like
Yeah.
it really makes the process of combat and or impressing creatures so simple that it's not engaging.
Yeah, like literally the way of doing it is like the more points they have into it, the better it's going to be done. So really, you're looking for like a 5 level, like 5 starred, like arm piece or like foot piece, whatever kind of limb you're looking for. And that way, you just when you press button, win the game, move on. I feel like you said again, it could have been more, but what we got, I like it. The creature stage is still easily my favorite stage in the entire game.
I would I would intend to agree because even though what we got is so much more limited than what we were initially shown, it's still undeniably really cool to just make a creature, see how it functions, and then have it interact in the world with other things. You know.
Yeah,
Apart from that, you basically do that again and again. There's a system where you can recruit different creatures into like a pack, which is pretty cool. If you're on the more peaceful side, you can actually recruit other species into your pack too. Those rogues that Chandler was mentioning before can also be recruited. It's just really hard to do it. You're mostly spending time scavenging around for bones to find new parts so that you can upgrade your creature. Every creature that you impress or kill gives you DNA, which is the currency of the game. Every part that you add on costs DNA. It fills up a complexity meter as well.
which, by the way, if you're scrub, you can cheat in the game. There's literally an in-game cheating system that allows you to add more DNA or to not cap out the complexity of your creature.
Yeah, there's like console command type cheats. Although disabling the complexity meter actually just makes it like bigger. It doesn't actually disable it. It'll still like hit a limit at some point where it won't let you add any more parts on.
Nah, all you do is just do that. You do that command over and over again until you're done with a creature.
But I think that the creature creator also is the most interesting tool in the game.
Yeah, because it goes beyond of just the creature creator. There's other things that you use the creating system for. Maybe for less interesting things, but the idea of creating other things that we'll talk about more is still very nice in this game that's not present in other things.
So upon moving on from creature stage, you then enter tribal stage, which I would probably say is the most limited stage in the entire game. Um, your creatures band together. You make a small tribe where your goal is to stockpile food. Basically, food becomes the new currency, so that you can build different buildings that will allow you to use different tools. And the goal is functionally the same. You either impress or kill all of the other tribes so that you are the dominant species on the planet, basically.
Let's not worry about the aftermath of destroying and conquering all the other neighboring tribal species. I think the tribal stage is a little underrated. Yeah, it's limited, but I do like the idea of you know this bartering system where you can go around and send gifts to the neighboring tribes, or you could raid their food, or you could get raided. There's a lot. Those are cool little tidbits they have in this stage.
I actually agree with you. I do think that the system of like trading food and stuff is really cool. I just wish there was more to do with it, you know? Because the relationships between once you get to this point in the game and it's more of like a Sim Cities like sort of thing, the relationships between you and other tribes or cities in the civilization stage is so simple. It's like you give them gifts and they like you, or you attack them and kill them. And there's just not that much to the politics, which I feel like is another missed opportunity, you know?
Yeah, in tribal stage, I think the politics games don't really matter. Like as long as you befriend them, that's fine, and no one else gives a fuck. It's either like they don't like you or they're okay with you in tribal. That's really like the side effects. Like, oh, you befriend this one, that's it. Nothing, no relation can deteriorate after that. It's okay. It gets a little bit more interesting when you're in civilization stage, which is the progression. Somehow, some Herculean way, all the other intelligent species disappear from the tribal stage. They're extinct. I don't know what happened specifically between tribal stage and civilization stage, but your species is the only intelligent sapient species on the planet. And depending on the paths that you take in from cell stage, creature stage, tribal stage, starts you out as like a certain kind of philosophy. Those being, diplomats, traders, warriors, religious zealots, or a military based one, which is what the warrior one is called. And from there, you create your first vehicle. You create a whip and you create your little town hall for your city. And really, the game becomes a little bit more, in-depth politics system because some of the neighboring cities will be like, "You're very religious. We're not all about that. You wanna calm down with that and stop conquering all the other cities with religion, please." Which I think is cool because there's aftermath, you know, with your decision basic making in the civilization stage. But again, it becomes literally Sim City where you take over the city somehow. And then some of them are cool because there's like, hey, we don't like Orange City. They're kind of jerks. We are going to give you some money to help us out beat them for us to take over that city, which could benefit you or it could become a detriment because eventually, that ally could become a nemesis. So I think the civilization is kind of the same as tribal, but it's a little bit more interesting with a little small bit of the politics system that they have going on.
Yeah, it definitely becomes more in depth once you hit civilization stage. I think that tribal and civilization are pretty similar to each other in the same way that cell and creature are similar to each other. The biggest outlier being the space stage beyond that. So I will make a mention of the other creation tools in the game that let you make things like buildings and vehicles are also really cool. They're not as expansive as the creature creator, but you still get a lot of really interesting tools for the cars. Like you mentioned, you can make like tanks that'll have like treads, or you could put wheels on there. There's different functions of like speed versus health of the units. It's all really cool ideas. It's just that there should have been more of it. And I think what you really could have done is you could have split up these stages into like multiple games.
Yeah, you really could. If, if they had, whatever the old demo was, if it was that expansive for creature and they even had aquatic stage, imagine what the tribal could have been, the civilization, and then the space age. And who knows? I think one thing before we talk about the space age was missing from this game is that it's such a fucking giant leap from tribal to civilization. It's so fucking huge. And I feel like, there's like some missing components of history. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have these stages or these things because of time limit and budgeting. But like a medieval age for like like for the aliens would have been cool as hell to see. Or like an ice age, something more dynamic to the planet because your planet literally nothing really happens to it. You know, environmental wise, it pretty much stays the same. So like, the tribal stage, dealing with an ice age. That would have been cool. Food becomes more scarce, just or there's tsunamis. A weather system from this game is pretty lacking, and I feel like it could have had a big impact on these early stages. And because it's pretty much like I don't even think there's like a night. There's barely like a nighttime mode in the game, and nothing really happens.
I think there is during the creature mode, but I don't think there is during like a I don't know.
Everything.
I'd have to check. I'm not really sure honestly, but it
If
definitely doesn't feel like there is.
Yeah, it's like the creature stage. It's like nighttime for like 30 seconds, and that's it. Imagine like, what if like the tribal state, man creating fire, imagine that kind of encounter with like, all like the regular animals during tribal stage, nocturnal animals, things like that. How would these aliens deal with nocturnal threats or like storm threats, firestorms, wood fires, things like that.
It's really interesting that you make reference of like natural disasters and stuff because they have those in like Sim City, which is I'm pretty sure what they base the civilization stage off of. Something like a city builder. But they could have definitely taken some cues from the Civilization games where you work through different periods of history, from like very simple inventions and like technology all the way up to like high level civilization. But you kind of just jump from tribal right into cities.
Yeah, like literally the transition between tribal and civilization is a cutscene where a guy comes up with like an idea of a fucking car. Like, how do these dudes beating sticks against like rocks were able to create a fucking car? You know, the progression is crazy in this game,
Yeah, it is
and
pretty
just
crazy.
yeah, seeing the transition would have been a nice little touch. But again, I'm pretty sure they didn't do it because of time constraints and budgeting.
If they were given the proper time and the proper budget to work through all of these ideas and make them as detailed as they should have been, this game would easily probably be my favorite game of all time.
Hmm. It's already up there,
It is
but
up there. It is up there, but it could have been so much better. And it's just like, as a kid, right? That's you don't really feel that as much, but coming back to it as an adult, especially like in the year like that it is now in 2025, it's just so unfortunate that this game has so many issues. Like even on basic stuff like the technical side, like this game's textures like have issues like loading in and stuff. There's a lot of bugs. The game crashes all the time still.
mhm.
It's just unfortunate, It's like what we got ended up being a half-baked version of like a 15 out of 10, which is still
Yep,
really good, but I just always get hung up on the missed potential of these stages.
absolutely, yeah. Super, super sad what EA did to Will Wright and Maxis with this fucking game. Shall they burn in hell forever?
Yeah, so Maxis actually did end up closing down, and I believe Will Wright left in 2009, um,
Yeah,
pretty soon after this game was released. I would
yeah.
imagine because I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine he was not happy with the final result. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't have to speculate too hard with that because the
and
demo in this game is very night and day.
from what I heard, though, he has like a new studio and he's working on another simulation type game. But this was the last thing that he worked on with his name on it, and it was all the way back in 2008. So who knows if that's going to happen or what if there's updates on it. I'm not sure personally, but I think he definitely deserved more. That guy was a pioneer in the games industry for such revolutionary and cool ideas that I feel like we are in desperate need of in
Absolutely.
this day and age.
If that is true, I hope they do a showcase, and if they need to do like raising funds or anything, shit, I'm pitching in money. I'm just hoping that spiritually it's a successor of Spore, and I'll be there for it. I'm curious to see if the fruits of his labor are going to be, come to fruition and what the game is going to be.
It would be very, very cool to see something that was just similar to this idea. Even like I'm not going to ask for like a Spore 2. A lot of people ask for stuff like that, and it's just like without somebody like Will Wright manning the ship for a game like this, you're not going to get what you want.
No, no, no.
The fucking people working at EA right now have no idea how to do any of this shit.
Oh, absolutely. Just off tangent, but still relating to Spore. Like this game, just to give you guys some context, I've recently reinstalled this game, and me and Payton were like, "Oh, we should do like an arms race to like space. Who can reach the galactic core first?" And reinstalling the game, I can't connect my own fucking account to it. I have to do all these funny like shenanigans. I have to like download I have to copy the CD code of my fucking game by going through the files, and then if that doesn't work, I have to contact someone at EA and show them proof that I bought the game for them to give me the code. It's just like, what the hell? Like, I should just be able to play the fucking game, log in, share my creations to Payton, and that's it. No, I have to jump through these fucking Herculean loops.
So
And the
that's
resolution was,
that's another part of the issue, right? Is that like I said, this game is technically a mess on top of everything. It's hard to like get this online stuff working when, like he said, you should just be able to log in and that should be the end of it. But because of the way EA did their nonsensical like origin stuff back in the day, and the way you had to validate games with fucking CD keys. You have to jump through all these hoops just to do basic online play, and it shouldn't be like that.
So yeah. And the solution, Payton shared me his account info, and I can do it now. We can share our
Yeah,
stuff.
and we're just gonna play on the same account because
Yeah.
fuck EA. That's why.
Yeah. Fuck EA. Yeah. No. But enough talk about civilization and how much EA sucks. I think we need to talk about the real star of this, or one of the big stars of this game, the space stage.
Yeah, in terms of like the amount of stuff you can do, the space stage takes the cake easily. The space stage is the most like fleshed out, most like actual video game like part of this, because you essentially the entire game transforms at this point to something completely unlike the last stages. You get to build your own spaceship in a kind of different version of the vehicle editor. You lift off from your home planet and you get to travel between different solar systems. You get to meet with different alien races, take on missions, develop like trade routes and stuff like that, all with the goal of eventually reaching the galactic core, which is guarded by a mysterious race known as the Groks.
And let me tell you something. Dealing with the Grox is a pain in the fucking ass. No one in the whole entire galaxy wants to fuck with them. Like literally, if you go in there, the Groks are just going to shoot the fuck out of you. And then if you want to ally with them, you have to go through these loops. And like, yeah, we want you to kill this entire species, and they might like you a little bit more. Not even a whole lot more. It's like that was pretty cool. We need you to go ahead and lobotomize this another species. We just need. We just think it's neat. So I do like the
Doing a long ass fucking mission.
long ass mission just to do one thing, and they might like you a little bit more. You have to do like 50 billion things for them just to get past, or you could
I
just
get
get killed.
neutral.
They might get neutral, and even then, they might. I think even as neutral, they'll still like shoot at you and shit. Which is interesting because the more you ally with the Groks to get past them, just to go to the fucking core, all the other races will be like, no, we don't like that. So I think like the diplomacy system in the space age is super neat because they're like, "Oh, your empire's too big. Oh, you believe in this religion? We don't like that. We
Yeah,
believe in this
making
one."
making progress in the space stage means that like other civilizations and other planets are gonna start having issues with you.
I think the funniest one is like, "You guys make too much money. We don't like that."
That's fucked up. That's hating, bro.
That's
Pocket
hated.
watching.
The spice. If you're a spice trader, like we don't like that. That we don't like you.
Well, what if I give you some of the money and then they're like, okay,
Oh, yeah, that's how, if you can literally just gift money to aliens, they're like, okay, we like you now.
it's 100,000 spore
Four
bucks.
bucks. Cough up another 100,000, and you might be okay with us.
Yeah. The space stage is really cool, honestly. Do we want to take a sec before we get deeper into this to talk about the expansions? Namely, I guess the parts pack first, and then
Yeah, we can
Galactic Adventures, because Galactic Adventures kind of bundles in with
intertwine.
Space Stage at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about creepy and cute.
So, Creepy and Cute was a one of two DLCs that they launched for this game. I guess they were considered expansions, which also had their own discs and their own CD keys that you had to install. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
just as fun. Where sometimes you would install it and then you would get like half the parts, and you'd have to install it like 3 times just to get the fucking thing you paid for. Thanks, EA.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
Fun,
the
fun,
parts
fun.
pack was a very interesting mix of, as the box says, creepy and cute. So more like horror centric and more like cutesy type parts, I guess. I'm not sure how to really describe it, but very simple, like cartoonish looking things, you know. And then on top of that, you get like carnivore mouths and stuff that are much more vicious looking, like evil red eyes and stuff. It's all still the cartoony art style, but it allowed you to expand your creations even further.
Yeah. Honestly, as a kid, I thought the cute part were creepy as fuck, and I thought the creepy parts were cool as hell. It was very. I was like, this cute guy on the game cover. I don't like his vibe. He's scaring the fuck out of me. But like you said, allows you it expanded on the themes of the game a little bit more with the parts at least. But me personally, I didn't think there was enough from the creepy and cutes parts pack. I
Yeah,
thought
the
there
the
should be a
parts
lot.
are pretty limited, honestly.
It's like 2 rows, 2 more rows, and that's it, which I thought was a little ass.
Yeah, it's not like a full page of parts, which is kind of unfortunate. Especially they were charging like $20 for it at the time,
Oh
which
yeah, dude. Yeah, insane.
yeah, a little much. I mean, I guess that doesn't sound that crazy nowadays. Motherfuckers nowadays be like, "Oh, $20, whatever, dude." But this was back in 2008, dude. We were going through the recession at that time. Okay.
The house crisis.
Yeah, just getting
Yeah.
your hands on a copy of Spore in general was a fucking statement, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I really thought, I would have liked I hate saying this because, it would be giving more money to EA, but like another parts pack would have been really nice. There was some shenanigans you could do to get like robotic bits, but again, it should just be in the fucking game. I don't need to go
The Dr Pepper parts, dude.
yeah, the Dr. Pepper parts.
Never forget the Dr Pepper parts.
Parts.
Where you had to drink Dr. Pepper and get like a code off a bottle so you could get like cyborg mechanical parts, which they never released, by the way. That was the only way to get it, was to buy fucking Dr. Pepper bottles. What a disaster on that front.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. But yeah, I think more parts would have been nice because like there's some things in the aspects of the game like you have to go crazy with the creation to like get what you want, but like, maybe making, more hairy parts or more like, amphibious parts, more insect like bits. I mean, there are insect arms and legs in the game.
You only get like a handful of them.
Again, you get like 2 rows. That's all you get. 2 rows. That's what EA offers you. 2 rows. More things that could have expanded on like what the creature looks like. I think would have been hella cool.
I think
Hella dope.
what would have been cooler is different functions too, like like parts that served a function that wasn't already in the game,
Yeah.
like the mouths and stuff were basically just alternate. They looked different, but that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
Again,
that was an opportunity for you to also expand on the creature stage, and then they just didn't do it.
yeah. There's like, like the omnivores, but really it's just like a gorilla mouth. Like why not like a baboon mouth or like, like there's crocodilians, but they're kind of fucked up. They're not they're good for where they are. But like, just other things. Maybe like more predatory beaks. There is the beaks in the game are just omnivores, but they're very cutesy. Like why not like a eagle mouth? That would have been cool as hell. Just other things that looks functionally that functionally I would ask for the functionally the same thing, but different appearance. Just because how the game, I doubt they're going to add more functions. It was just
Yeah,
been nicer to have more options.
it would have been cool though.
It been cool.
Um, yeah. Apart from that, they also released Galactic Adventures, which was the more substantial of the expansions by far.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah.
Galactic Adventures added the ability for you to beam down from your spaceship onto a planet to play what were called adventures. I think there was not that many like adventures included made by Maxis in there, but due to the game's online function, which lets you download other people's creations, you can download other people's adventures, which was another creator that they added, which was very, very cool for what it was. It essentially allowed you to make small missions. You would have different objectives and stuff like that. You could make them like go talk to somebody, or there'd be a combat section. People got very creative with using like buildings and stuff like that to make props in Galactic Adventures. So you could make like a shovel or something like that using the building editor, which was very, very cool. Very cool to see people use different tools to accomplish stuff in a completely new addition to the game, which is kind of what I wanted to begin with.
Yeah. And another cool thing about Galactic Adventures is that your character, your ship captain, would level up during these missions. You would get you would earn parts as you leveled up the more missions you did and like the better you did them. There was a reward system which is cool and it allowed you to upgrade your captain itself. eventually, you'd be going around and there'd be like different ranks. Functionally doesn't really do anything, but it, shows like, oh, this guy's like a Grand Fleet Admiral, blah blah blah. This guy, he's got the good shit. It's just very cool, and it allows other people to see your captains and be like, "Oh wow, this guy's fucking awesome. This guy's captain is juiced the fuck up. I want to be like
Crazy
him."
Wolverine claws and shit.
Yeah, or he could turn invisible. Just cool things like that. Or he has like blasters. He's just got fucking blasters, which is cool as hell.
So that expanded the space stage in a way that I wish the creepy and cute parts kind of expanded the creature stage. Um, what? Yeah, because basically in the space stage before this came out, you were spending all your time in the spaceship, and there was lots of cool stuff you could do, but you really wanted to be able to beam down and still interact with other planets. And this was kind of a happy medium that they found. Not as in depth as I wanted it to be, but I mean, you could say that about the whole game at this point. It was still a cool addition, and I think this one was definitely worth way more in the long run.
Mhm. I think they both at the time were the same amount. I could be terribly wrong. The shit could have been like 50, $40.
I want to say that Galactic Adventures was $30 and Creepy and Cute was like 20 or maybe 25.
Yeah. But the expansion, it was truly a real expansion for the game. It added more. It made the stage more lively. It was just cool. Again, another ambitious add-on to the game.
Yeah, it was cool to see that they didn't like stop, you know. They still had more ideas coming out up until eventually they had to move on, you know, and like I said, EA closed down Maxis. So support for this game was not going to go that long.
Yeah.
But just such an ambitious idea. I mean, taking a single-celled organism all the way up to a spacefaring like star captain, uh engaging with other alien planets and stuff. Just such a cool idea, you know. If they could have found a way to maybe separate this into 2 or 3 games, I would say like Cell and Creature, then Tribal and City, and then Space Stage be its own thing. They could have made something so incredible, so incredible. And I just,
Really?
I just wish we got that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I feel like, back in the day, like just reflecting on other games with like, multiple disc because the games were so big, they could have easily done that. I think, just swapping in as Pain of Ass would have been swapping in the disc between the two things. So that way they didn't have to make functionally it would be like two separate games or multiple games, but it's still within the same thing. Would have been nice. Um,
Worked with the registry stuff though. Um, I really don't know how that would have worked, but
yeah, you're right.
I mean that is an idea though, right? But what I'm saying is they should have separated it into like different products entirely. You could have
They
had like Spore and then like Spore like civilization and tribal stage and then the like a space stage thing that was its own game. And you would have had 3 very distinct games that I mean, part of the charm is that it's like one seamless experience, but it would have worked much more if you could have separated it somehow. It was too ambitious for what it was.
Yeah, I think the restraints really show on the game itself. Mainly because, we don't know for sure, but I would be hard pressed to assume that EA had a lot of this, deadlines and things like that, and they had to like cut down budgets and timelines to make this
Probably,
game
probably,
out.
yeah. Like I said, what we ended
Oh
up
God,
with was still a
special place in my
very
heart.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna say. It still holds a place in my heart as well. It's still one of my favorite games. Just the concept alone carries so much for this game.
There's one thing that I'm really surprised about that I found out today while we are talking before we did the podcast. This game does not have all that many mods, and I'm really surprised and saddened by that. Because modders go crazy as fuck with, these games. Sometimes they just make like whole new miniature campaigns for games. Like for example, the Halo 3 modded campaign, the New Covenant that plays after, the events of Halo 3, where you as the Arbiter have to encounter, you know, the Fractured Covenant. I'm surprised, some modded dudes didn't create, a medieval age for this game. The mods for this game are very simplified. It's like, oh, here's my creatures. You can download them. Like, dude, I can make this shit on my own, or I could just download it from you. Or some of them are just like, shading, which is nice, but not what I would expect for mods. And I was hoping for a little bit more than that. I think
I I was thinking about it too, and I wonder if the code for the game and how it's made actually makes it really hard to add stuff.
that could be a possibility. I didn't think about that, but I would expect, modders being crazy could figure it out, because god damn it, back then probably not, but nowadays I feel like the code for the game is old enough where should be understood well enough for like, it being out for nearly almost since god damn it, it's probably been like close to being 20 fucking years at this point. Or
It could also be just a lack of interest in the idea of modding the game.
that,
I
that is
mean,
true.
Spore is a pretty niche game with a pretty niche like community. I would say it's like a cult classic kind of thing, even though it has so many problems.
Hmm.
But there's probably just not that much interest in changing the game up, to be honest.
That's always a possibility, and probably the realistic answer for why there isn't that much modding support for the game itself.
Yeah, it's been so long as well.
By the time that people could mod the game, there's other things to mod in other games.
Pretty much, right? I guess more stuff was coming out. Spore. I don't really know how well it did financially. Um,
I
but
think
if the one of the founders of the company leaves right after the game comes out, that's usually not a good sign. So
yeah, definitely not. I just hope, I'm never going to get Sport 2. I know we're never going to get, anything from the Sport IP ever again, but I'm hoping with the advancements of technology and the levels of ambitions of people have, I'm hoping for some kind of spiritual successor
yeah,
to the original idea.
in some
Something
way, shape, or
super
form.
ambitious because we have, like I said, No Man's Sky. That's a fucking thing. That game's pretty ambitious from what it was. Just the intricacies of the game itself. I'm just hoping for something like that. I'm really hoping is for the same concepts but expanded upon. It's some way to interact with actual other players eventually. I'm hoping for a game where you grow and develop a species for quote unquote millions of years, and then once you reach the stars, you could encounter your buddy on the same server.
That would be a really cool idea. And No Man's Sky kind of had that idea. It also looked very similar to Spore too in terms of like its art style. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, I absolutely agree. I think somebody can definitely take another crack at like an evolution simulator. I think with the like technology that we have today and the talent that we have today, it would be it would be interesting at the very least to see what somebody could do with a modern take on something like Spore. Like you said, I don't think we'll ever get anything out of this IP again, but I don't think anybody should stop trying to make it a new thing.
Mhm. Mhm. We just need the right person to do it, and quite frankly, I don't know who could do it.
That
Who
is the
has
question.
who has the money backing behind them? Who has the experience with a team to do this? So really, I don't expect a game like this to ever come out, honestly. But god damn it, if it does, I hope to God that it's close enough to what Will Wright imagined for the original Sport game and more.
That would be incredible. But as it stands, this is all we have and probably all we're ever going to get. And for what it is, it was a marvelous video game with a marvelous concept, uh, incredibly unique, headed by a dude who had real passion and real out of the box ideas. And I think Will Wright got treated very poorly by EA, from what I understand. Um, wherever he's at now. Like I said, I believe he's working on a new game. I think he has his own kind of studio. I don't think it's necessarily a game development studio, but regardless, I hope he continues to work on whatever project he's working on. You gave us something really, really memorable and unique, and I just want to say thank you. So that is probably going to be it for this episode. Don't know what we're going to cover next. I feel like we kind of just go week to week with this, but if you made it to the end, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Please check us out on Spotify. We're also on YouTube as well, if you're listening on Spotify. We appreciate all the support, and we will see you next time.
Bye.